Welcome, folks, to the Twist News. I'm Erika Grey.
And I'm Don Pravda. Welcome.
And tonight we're going to trash Zelensky, who is in Washington right now and getting red carpet treatment. And of course, what does Zelensky do? But he's going everywhere asking for help for Ukraine. And he gets red carpet treatment. As a matter of fact, Ukraine dominates the news like there's no other country in the world that's in crisis, like there's never been a war on earth except the one happening in Ukraine, which the Americans started anyway, basically by installing a puppet government and provoking the Russian bear.
Could have prevented it. That is surely our conviction.
What's your thoughts on Zelensky?
Well, I think he's overplaying his card. Congress is wondering, where is all this money going? Are the weapons actually getting to their source? Are they being shipped elsewhere? Are the weapons doing what they're supposed to do? And how much longer can we support the Ukraine in dollars and cents and weapons?
I think we're spent. And now we've enlisted South Korea, which is also sending weapons. And we're talking other nations into sending weapons. This is unbelievable.
He demands weaponry from Israel, and that's becoming unlikely. And don't forget, Israel was a peace partner with Russia all those years. And what plays out is that both Russia and the Ukraine have Jewish people who are fleeing and leaving as well. A very dramatic time.
Oh, yes, actually, when Zelensky spoke to Netanyahu, and it was just reported today in an article addressing the question of what did Netanyahu have to say about this war in Ukraine and how to stop it? Well, it's interesting that the media keeps going there as if Putin is the instigator. Well, Europe has him as the aggressor. But what about the fact of this history going back to 2008, the U.S. installing a puppet government and basically preparing for this scenario and holding this line that Ukraine is a democracy, gets to decide if it wants to be part of NATO? What's your 2 cents on that?
Well, is it really necessary for this nation to be part of NATO? Is it really necessary for them to have a larger army, to have millions of dollars in the coffer in their army? What is the future? What is the future of peace and war in this region? Is it ever going to stop? Congress is getting weary right now.
Well, and also this democracy issue, Israel's not treated with any respect regarding its sovereignty, regarding its democracy.
They're not.
No, Israel's not treated with any respect. The nations want to tell Israel what to do, what they should do with the Palestinians, how there must be peace, which basically goes against the League of Nations mandate for Israel. And Israel's not viewed as a democratic sovereign nation that can make its own decisions. No, but all of a sudden Ukraine is.
But see, I also like to add, it is Hanukkah time. Historically, 2 of the greatest Jewish leaders in all of history, the man known as Matityahu, the Kohen, the high priest of the temple, led a rebellion against the Syrian Greeks who were in control of the region of Israel at the time. And let's not forget, common people helped in this rebellion. So they were able to ward off an empire for a year and a half, and then finally at the end, 40,000 troops came into Israel and smashed the rebellion. What it comes down to is they lost their ability to control the Holy Temple during this period of time, because another government came in with their philosophy and their idol worship. And so Israel needs their sovereignty. They have to determine about worship in the East Jerusalem. They have to determine their worship in the temple area. They also are working very hard in area of housing to accommodate a future of thousands and possibly millions more coming in, Israel must decide its own fate.
But it's not allowed to do that. And this is the hypocrisy of the global powers. And what they seem to do is they manipulate sovereignty to suit their own agenda. Now, all of a sudden, Ukraine is this sovereign nation. Ukraine, which is a very corrupt nation, sovereign, because this is what suits the superpowers or the empires right now in the multipolar lineup. What I want to highlight, too, is I never agree with crazy people. Just don't do it. And I view Marjorie Taylor Greene as poster for crazy. But she actually came out with something that made a lot of sense. I'm shocked. I'm agreeing with a crazy woman. So we're going to take a look at what she had to say. She attacked Zelensky's plans to visit Congress and called him a shadow president in Ukraine, the 51st state. I think she's right. This crazy lady is right. What's your thoughts?
Well, she's not off entirely. She has merit.
Yeah.
Maybe, in fact, they want to be the next Alaska.
Ukraine.
Yeah, Alaska part. I heard it's cold out there. Winter is coming, but it's never going to be a state of the United States. But how much longer will we fund this war? That's a critical question.
Probably
to Mr. Biden.
until Russia, which looks like it's about to launch a very serious offensive, just completely takes it. And when Ursula von der Leyen, when we spoke about this on a show, came out and wants to seize the reserves that Russia had bought, purchased euros for its reserves and wants to seize those to make Russia rebuild the Ukraine, it looks like Russia's answer is, oh yeah, we'll rebuild Ukraine after we take it. So I think all that the Western powers are doing is just continuing to poke the Russian bear. They're looking like they're justified. They're manipulating terms like sovereignty and democracy, when the reality is that Ukraine's a cash cow, 40 million citizens, agriculturally rich, large nation that would definitely increase GDP. And for the United States, we know about the deals, and we've talked about some of that. But so that our audience doesn't think we're totally crazy, let's look at what James Rickards had to say, because Rickards is so spot on, but he came out with some statements that are even more stronger than what we're stating. So let's take a listen to what he has to say.
Joe Biden, because of Hunter Biden, who made millions of dollars from Burisma, they're a large natural gas company. Ukraine is ranked in the low 90s of the most corrupt countries in the world. In other words, it's at the bottom on a corruption list with the most honest countries being on top. Ukraine is very close to the bottom. It's the most corrupt country in Europe, one of the most corrupt countries in the world. Zelensky is just another oligarch, just another phony. Now, you can take sides, but to me, Putin's a dictator, Zelensky's a dictator. Pick your dictator. But this idea that he's some good guy Democrat is nonsense.
I don't think he could have said it better, Don. That was unbelievable. The idea that he's some good guy, Democratic guy, is nonsense. The media is just manipulating this whole thing and making Russia look like they're 100% in the wrong. Zelensky's this huge hero, and there's no other people but the Ukrainian people.
And watch out, look who is on the other side. Hungary, China, India.
Yeah, there's a lot happening.
Retaining their alignment with Russia.
Yes, there is a lot happening. There's decisions being made, key decisions. China is dumping dollars. Nations are dumping dollars. They're moving away from the petrodollar. There is a lot happening in response to the sanctions and our weaponizing, the United States weaponizing the dollar. But also all this money going to Ukraine And we've talked about why not help here in the United States. And I mentioned homelessness, and now Biden is coming out with a package that will address 25%, but that's a very small number. What's your thoughts there?
Just 25%. That's a very small number.
Yeah, that is a small number. And then you were talking about earlier how the violence in New York City is getting so great that the police are fleeing for Connecticut, to work in Connecticut than working in New York.
And what's alarming, we really don't want the businesses fleeing, schools fleeing, parents fleeing. We want people to stay. It remains to be a very great city, but it's being tested to its limits right now.
And instead of the United States looking inward, addressing its own issues in all of its cities here in the United States, no, we keep giving more money to Ukraine and all other causes that just are mind-boggling, or nations, money going to various nations where money should be going to address these issues in the United States, to keep it strong, to keep its cities strong. Right. And no, actually, we tend to create war zones, don't we? We're creating the one in Ukraine, and the United States, through its ignoring the problems in the United States, is creating a war zone here in the cities in the United States by not effectively addressing the problems and giving money elsewhere that should go to the cities. You agree with that?
Absolutely.
Back to Zelensky. I am so sick and tired of this man being put on a pedestal, and all he does is ask for the bank from every single country and feel that Ukraine is entitled like there's no other country. Like you've got to hear Europe. You've got to hear the discussions in the press department and Ursula, I'm talking about Ursula von der Leyen, the EU's chief president. You got to hear when she talks about Ukraine. It's almost like she says Ukraine, like she's talking about her own little child, baby, right. Ukraine, like there's no other country. Like there's no other, they didn't have that same concern with the migrant crisis and the migrants that were coming into Europe. No, they treated them abysmally. But Ukraine, different story. They've got red carpet. Those the refugees coming into the European Union are given quite a bit. I mean, this is sickening. And somebody needs to call it out. And we need to call it out on this channel that this is real discrimination, because no one nation should be given this kind of treatment when other nations are being ignored and their problems are being ignored. And then they want to talk about sovereignty. Well, what about Israel not being given the sovereignty? No recognition for that. No. So there's a lot of hypocrisy, Don. Wouldn't you say that?
Let the enemies of Israel recognize Israel as a state, as a nation.
Yes.
Which, with rules and a constitution, one that's flourishing, one is that it's an international beacon of light. Let the enemies in the Middle East recognize this remarkable place of light during this Hanukkah time.
That's very well said, Don. That was amazing. It was amazing. That was really well said. But you're right. There's a lot of hypocrisy. And it seems that there's manipulation and there's abuse of these terms. But that's what we're here for, to call this stuff out. That's it for today's show. But I want you guys to check out our link to our Amazon store. We've got an Amazon store. We pick the products. We'll be picking more. If you have any products that you think we should carry or categories, let us know. And we're also going to be having the authors or the experts who come on who've written a book. We will be carrying those books as we continue on. We will be interviewing individuals, so you're going to want to stay tuned for more. Don, and of course, be sure to subscribe. Don, Any final words?
Subscribe, be part of us. We'd like to hear your opinions. We want to be with you. We have a very big future ahead, and let's have a great news show.